Living in uncertainty is a gigantic challenge. Of course, we have a fear of the unknown, of what could possibly happen next that we're not prepared for, that we don't have a plan for. We, as humans, crave this sense of control, of stability, and security in our lives that comes from somewhere within us. The problem is that there is absolutely no controlling any circumstances in this life. As hard as we may try, our health, our relationships, our finances are truly not ultimately within our grasp. Just ask the millions of sick or unemployed or divorced people in this country. These are just a few of the examples of major factors in our lives that we have very little say in. And it's really no wonder why so many people live in despair and in hopelessness. Living in uncertainty can be terrifying, but it doesn't have to be. There is a way to find stability, security in a turbulent and unpredictable world, and that is through faith in the Lord, who is in control. For God is King of all the earth. Sing profound praises to him. God reigns over the nations. God is seated on his holy throne. That's from Psalm 47. And Isaiah 45 says, God is the one forming light and creating darkness, causing well-being and creating calamity. I am the Lord who does all of these. God is the one who formed the mountains, who created light and dark. He filled the seas with everything that's in them. There's absolutely no situation that is too big for him to handle. And he wants us to completely trust in his ability, not our own. Remember how God told Moses that God, was going to be the one to completely set his people free after 400 years of slavery in Egypt? Moses faced one of the most impossibly terrifying tasks, probably in all history, which was to march up to a despot and command that he release all of his slaves so that they could go worship another god besides Pharaoh. God was, all Moses had to do was show up with a staff, do a couple things with it, say a few words to Pharaoh, but God was the one who outstretched his mighty arm and caused locusts to swarm, the river to fill with blood, for firstborn to die, and ultimately for Pharaoh to relent long enough for God to get his people out of there. And of course, we can't forget how when Pharaoh's army pursued Israel, God's people, God split the sea so that they could go through it, and then had it come crashing in on the army, wiping them all out. That's not something that would have ever been humanly possible, but with God, anything is possible. And Moses, a man, was appointed as a leader over the people. But notice how it was God who was the one who did the work, as long as he had a faithful servant to work through. After breaking his people out of slavery, God proceeded to deliver on his long-standing promise of bringing his people to a land that would have provided everything they could have ever needed. Joshua was the leader that was put in charge. And talk about living in uncertainty. Israel had no idea what they were going to have to encounter as they entered into this new land, or what type of people they were going to have to butt heads with. For all they knew, they were going to be stepping into an all-out war, and if they lost, their entire race could be wiped out. But Joshua believed that God would do what he said he would do, which was deliver them to this land. All Joshua had to do was love God's word, obey it, and move his feet forward. Then look what happened as they entered Jericho, the first city that they entered into in this new land. A city has never been won so easily in all of history. All they had to do was march around the city once a day for 6 days, and then on the seventh day, they marched around it 7 times, yelled real loud, blew some trumpets, and the walls crumbled down, and they took it. I don't care how loud you are screaming, you're not going to knock down walls of a city doing that. It was God who showed up for his people and took control of the situation for them. God has made promises to us too. He's promised that we will always have a safe place to run to in his arms. He's promised that he'll heal us through and through to our soul, and he promised that he would never forsake or betray us. God himself conquered the biggest fear we could possibly have, which is death, when he died and rose again from the cross. Jesus defeated death for us. He gave us stability, security, comfort, peace, all these things that we search for that completely defy what the world can provide for us or what we can attain on our own. So what in the world is there to fear? When we have faith in what God can do in our lives, we receive that stability that we so long for, and we revel in watching God reveal his glory through our lives.